Wait, didn't I already record this video? All right. It sucked. If you were one of the handful of people that happened to watch my first attempt at making this video, I'm really sorry. It was garbage. It wasn't quite cringy, but it was almost there. So hopefully I can try to tell it with a little bit more clarity. Maybe I can be concise and not ramble for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, starting off as a disclaimer, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing right now. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. We'll just have to see. What this video is actually about is my method of running the game. I like to think of it as writing prompts for my players versus outright planning and meticulously grooming a setting or campaign to tell the story that I want to tell. Often I feel like as a GM, DM, however the hell you want to say it, I often railroad myself. I'll make plans for myself and I'll work so hard to not railroad my players by doing all this crazy prep for every session so that I can let them off the leash. And that's the problem, right? They're on a leash. And no matter how you want to say it, they're on a leash. Unless you're improving in a setting that you've been working on for, decades. But most of us aren't that fortunate. What I do to start is I flesh out my setting, right? And I don't mean you have to cover every single detail, but you want to put a lot of detail in it. You want to get things really thought out. And the way I do that is I start by thinking of what my central tension is in my setting and what the overarching plots might be. And I kind of outline those things and get a general understanding of what they are. I'll start creating the major factions and nations and things like that in that setting, just so that there's flavor, there's content, there's things for the players to interact with. And then from there, I go and I figure out major NPCs. And I like to make quite a few of them just so I have a lot to work with. And then after I get to that point, I get the idea and person stuff out of the way. I like to create the locations, geological locations, cities, mountain ranges, everything that I think has importance in my setting. Things that you can call up in a casual conversation with a guard or something. Like, oh yeah, that's that place, it's just to the west of, the Dragon Spine. Things like that. It just places your players in the world. After I get these major things out of the way, I start padding it, right? Start creating all these small things, small plots, and minor locations, minor NPCs, things that are going to give another layer so that the players can go out and discover things for themselves and do what they will with it, right? Maybe create their own central tension. Who knows? After all of this, after I create all these different places, major, minor, fifths, I just pepper them all over my map. And there's rhyme and reason to it. Like, I'm not going to put a desert temple in the middle of a jungle, but I'm going to not place them in any sequence, right? They're going to be placed on the map. So, for instance, a central tension location might be here, and then the next one's 8,000 miles away. Who knows, right? Who really, if you spread it out like that and let it have some level of randomness, it feels more like it exists in a natural world. It doesn't feel so ordered that it doesn't make sense. Once I have all these things on the map, I go through and I'll detail them. I'll give details to the central tension or the plot. I'll come up with the why. Why is this happening? What's going to happen if the players don't intervene? What does it mean for the world or the characters that the players have fallen in love with? That stuff's important because you can let the players go off and do their own thing, but if there's this thing that's always looming over their heads and they know, oh, hey, we ignored this in the past, and so and so and that town, we got killed by some asshole orcs. That gives real world consequences to the things in your games and the events in your game. Um, and it helps the players really ground themselves and show that, hey, our choices matter. Like what we do and what we don't do have an impact on everything, right? And it might be small, it might be we lose a friend, it might be massive, it might be the world becomes enslaved by the evil overlord. Probably don't put Voldemort in your game because, yeah, that's, you know, really what the fuck happened there. Used to be a beacon. Anyway, from that point, speaking of villains, I'll detail out the NPCs, major and minor. Obviously, more emphasis on the major here, but I'll give them, their wants, their desires, their jobs, their dispositions, um, their flaws. All the things that make them characters, and round them out rather than them just be, I'm good because I'm a good guy, and I'm bad because I'm an evil guy, right? That's stupid and boring. And part of that too is how do they fit in the world, right? How do they fit in the world, not only for your players, but to the other people, right? You want to see, or I should say the players want to see their interactions with other NPCs and the responses and the effect that that NPC has on those other NPCs. It's important that when you're planning out your NPCs, if the players only ever see them reacting to the players, it seems too contrived. So think about that in this detailing process, is how they fit into that world. And next, detail out your locations. Detail out a town or two, right? And I usually like to do two towns, a starting town and a destination town, because that gives you more to work with. You have different sets of inciting incidences that you can do, and we're going to get to that term here in a little bit, because it's going to be important for this whole concept to work. And from there, I also want to build out different POIs and create some randomness, and don't necessarily scale these to your players' levels, things like that. Make it so they could, on their way to this first place where it's really like a level 1 adventure hook type of a deal, they come across these old ruins and there's a fucking ancient dragon there. Yeah, I mean, that's not something you want to obviously hint at that, because if you kill your players at level 1 with an ancient dragon, I mean, you're kind of a dick. From there, we're going to look at dungeons. And the dungeons we're going to populate with a type of baddie. You don't have to detail every room, but know a general idea and theme of your dungeons and have them ready to go. Just have maps. You don't have to plan out the maps too detailed. Just have a map ready and a general idea of how this place was used and what type of creatures or NPCs are there. Now for the most important part. So we've done all this. We've placed everything on our map. We've detailed it out. We have some stuff ready to go so that when our players say, I'm going in that temple, we'll be like, here's a temple map. You know what? It's infested with undead. It's, yeah, it sucks. You have all these things in place and ready to go. Again, don't scale anything. Don't make things so that everything is the correct CR for your players. Don't do that, because when the world feels too planned for your players, it doesn't feel like a story that you're telling together. It feels like something that you prepared. So now, if they're always hitting, it's like, oh wow, look at this. I'm always going up against kobolds and goblins the whole way there. And there's ways you can do that to make it work, but you know, you want to try to vary things and let the environment dictate what's there, and use a little randomness. That way, they could run into a dragon on their way to this, goblin temple or undead temple, whatever I said. To really get things rolling and to get us to a state where we're letting things grow organically, we need to start the campaign at a normal state. And what I mean by this, find a way to incorporate your players' mundane life. And really, if you can get your players to come up with a backstory, that's great. But even if you can get a conversation going saying, like, hey, Rogue, there's, an old merchant walking down the street and he's got a fat purse dangling off his belt. What do you do? And you play that out and you let these scenes play out. And then you switch to another one of your players and you play out a similar scene and you do that. And slowly but surely you pull those pieces together and then they all converge on a point where you have the inciting incident. Now that can come organically or it can be something you plan. However you want to do it. I mean, you do want the characters to get their asses moving, right? You don't want them sitting in the same town the whole time you're playing. But you get them to an inciting incident. And what that is an inciting incident is like a call to action, right? You think of it, you have the hero of a village in the Dark Ages, and this barbarian tribe comes in and they wipe out this hero's family and their village, but the hero was, unconscious under a house and he didn't know what was going on until he woke up, and then he finds the helm with the horns on, that same bullshit, right? But that incident, so you have the hero living their life in the village, and then all of a sudden this tribe comes and, destroys his life. That's his inciting incident. And that's what you want to create for your players in the beginning. And this will just get them moving. And it doesn't matter where they move, you just want to get them moving. So once they're moving, you're going to unleash them, right? You just sit back and the world is in front of them, and they can travel to one of these many writing prompts that you placed on your map, right? And the beautiful thing is, instead of prepping before every session, you did all your prep by doing all this stuff, right? You put in all this time. When in my current campaign, I probably spent 4 months prepping before I was finally like, you know what, I'm ready, let's go. But now, maybe an hour at the most, I prep every couple of sessions, just so I have, I know kind of who's in what town, that sort of thing. I want to know ahead of time who's there, so that way I know how to interact and how to kind of respond to the players. But outside of that, I'm not planning dungeons. I'm not looking for maps. I've got all that stuff's already taken care of. I've got that there. Once you do all this planning, once you've planted all these different, plot points and central tension points and NPCs and locations and all that stuff, and you have all these dungeons scattered across your map, you just improv, right? It's your creation. You go with the flow from there. You go with the flow with the players, right? You're not digging through notes, right? It's all there. Like, you have this stuff in front of you. It's all there. It's all ready to go. Some of it might be up here, but now you can just interact and respond to the players. Maybe you'll say, Tim, that's no different than the way anyone else does it, but it feels different to me. Especially when I started doing things this way. Maybe that was just part of growing. So, hey, maybe instead of, hey, this is a different way to run your game, maybe this is, hey, new DMs, this is how you should do it. But I probably won't say it like that because that just makes me sound like a authoritative dick. If you feel like this attempt was any better than my first attempt, hopefully I didn't ramble too much. But I do have that tendency. If you did like this, please leave a comment below. If you hated it, leave a comment below. Um, you know, interaction is great because not only does it make me feel good to interact with people, and it's better for the community in general, for the gaming community, the painting community, but it's also, it lets me know if anyone likes this content. Um, and it lets me know if I should, just shut up or try and make another video. Maybe the next one will be better. Maybe they'll progressively get better. I hear that's how these things usually work. But, let me know. Thank you for watching. In the next video, I might redo my Know Your Enemy video. Again, making it a little bit better. Probably going to be doing some painting videos soon. I do have some new tricks I've discovered for terrain making, so I'll probably do some videos on that as well. Hopefully we can start getting content out every Wednesday. That's the expectation I'd like to set. But, thank you for spending this time with me, and if it was worthwhile, I'm glad I was able to share it. If not, I'm sorry I wasted your time, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully, maybe. Who knows?